theory, we are live on the stream for Weird Things. How are you, gentlemen?
Fantastic.
Oh, baby. I'm doing great.
Hell yeah. Okay, all right. Well, then, I guess we could dive right in. Sorry that we're starting a little bit late. That's on me. It was a team effort. It took me to be getting on the highway and other people to have Rex to slow me down. We did it. All right. Are you ready, Andrew?
Let me make sure I got the right mic.
Yeah. G. James B. showing up in the Twitch chat. Oh, here. Do we get the right mic?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Then here, this coffee is almost done. And then we can jump in. I was gonna ask a question that would essentially be starting the show, but I'll wait. We did on the
Just a heads up. I am hard out at the top of the hour.
okay.
Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, ready in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood
Hello.
and Mr. Justin Robert Young.
Hey, friends.
Gentlemen, where do we want to begin? The big AI story right now is what's going on with Anthropic and the Department of War.
Yeah, this feels like a. Before I know you know more about the internal workings of this, but this is, from a branding perspective, maybe the biggest moment in Anthropic's career, because I know that Apple won an awful lot of customer goodwill by refusing to hack their own devices in the middle of for very good, legitimate reasons. They say, we don't hack our own devices. And then whether or not that's indicative of their actual policies, blah, 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 blah. I know that was a PR coup, and it looks an awful lot like Anthropic is positioned to do a similar thing.
I would certainly say if that was, my former boss, I've been talking about this, handled PR for Apple when they handled that. And I would say I was very different. I would say that Anthropic Apple had a situation where you had the shooting, they had the suspects, they had everything. There was no life in danger. It was, what do we need to make the case, whatever. And Apple had a long-standing policy of not doing that cooperation. The challenge here is Anthropic is the first AI lab to run to the security community, NSA, CIA, and the Pentagon to make deals to say use our technology. Had they not done that, had they been, no, we've had hands off, we don't want to be involved in any kind of spy or anything like this and military stuff whatsoever, I'd be like, yeah, cool. Then you've got that. I would say that you're right. People have that perception, but like I don't think people realize that Anthropic was the first one to make those deals. And I would say that it's a different situation, you know, that I'd say that what it is. I think that a lot of people, I've talked to people had no idea, like, wait, Anthropic? I'm like, yeah, they talked about that, but nobody really knew that. So I'd say it's kind of a, if you had
you're saying, so I mean, it's specifically part of the reason why Anthropic has the top secret clearance, which is at the heart of this conversation that's happening right now, is because they've made deals with the CIA and they signed this contract with the Department of War a year ago.
Well, yeah, but I mean, and again, in Anthropic's defense, and the claim is, and I don't know what really goes on behind the scenes, is it the Pentagon says, hey, listen, things are moving really fast. We have an adversary in China that is very moving fast in robotics and AI, and I don't think the mass surveillance things against government law would, and also like, I think you take that off the table already because once art against law 2. Anthropic's things like, well, the government could buy all these records and do this stuff. Like, cool. Do you have provisions against private companies do this? Are you telling me that you're not letting private companies use Claude for, I don't know, fraud detection and all these things? They let you do that. And so I'm saying like, that's a more of a weaselly kind of like, this could like take that thing off the table. Question is, should AI be used in the kill chain? Should it in that? I think it's a fair point. I think Anthropic absolutely has the right to say, hey, we don't think this, you know, we don't want to be that part of it, whatever.
Well, and,
I would say
just to loop in anybody who missed the news story, as I heard it this morning at 5:01 a.m. was the deadline, and this is the last time
PM,
I peeked.
today,
PM was the deadline, but the question that Anthropic was pushing back on was they were asked to relax some of the ethical guidelines, and the bright lines that Anthropic said they were pushing back on was one, autonomous kill devices, and I forget the other one. I should look it up.
The mass surveillance.
The mass surveillance. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, mass surveillance is a bit of a loosey-goosey term, though, isn't it?
That's the problem. And again, I would say that I have friends who are all over this issue, many different sides of it. And side the labs are that. My issue has been when I saw them go run out to the intelligence community and the defense community, the first ones to go do this years ago. I'm like, well, that's weird because you're going to get all these kinds of conflicts. And here we are in 2026, like, oh my God, these conflicts. I'm like, yeah, like
narrator voice. They did.
Yeah, and I think that yeah, for the moment, like Dario looks like he's the stalwart standing up for it, which maybe it's that he is, but I'm also like, you made the deals with the pen. I used to do defense contracting years ago, and I realized, oh, this is its own thing, and it's messy. And once you get into it and things came in there, it's hard to do it. And the money's there, but once you take that money, I think you're kind of in there. So I think that the fact that I know that every AI lab is going through this and having their own positions and where they're doing it. Nobody got this messy is what happened with Anthropic. I think that's sloppy. I will tell you part of what happened, what seems to be the public happened was nobody really paid attention until a report came out that talked about how Claude was used for planning the Maduro raid. Some people in Anthropic were not happy about that. And then all of a sudden this became a story and now it became a new issue. I will tell you part of the urgency on this is San Bernardino is a thing that happened. Right now, we have the amazing thing is nobody pays attention to this. I mean, some people, we have the most massive troop deployment in history, perimeter and around Iran. And now Anthropic and the Department of War are going back and forth. And I think part of it is the Department of War is like, we don't want to go try to liberate Iran and find out that our API got disconnected. You know, and I don't think Anthropic would do that, you know, but I do think that's a concern. I'm not the war planner thinking about, okay, I got to try to liberate millions of Iranians. And I know that I'm using this technology in my system. And I'm worried now that some people there might say, you know what? I don't like the use of this. We're going to cut you off.
Well, and here's the one thing that is unique. This has now become an extraordinarily public fight for things that normally happen very, very, very behind
Yeah.
the scenes. You know, this is the kind of like, don't acknowledge that the CEO has to go to DC kind of talks that normally happen, because we are dealing with top secret stuff here. This is the situation that Anthropic willfully put themselves in, was being the only AI company that has the ability to use top secret clearance. And that was something that started years and years ago that predates this administration. So now you have a big pushback and you have a big fight. The thing that I don't doubt that there are many, many passionate sides of this that can talk about it. But what's odd is that it is now this public and it has gotten acrimonious. You have Dario saying that the Pentagon is, has an unacceptable position and that they are being mealy-mouthed and weaselly in how they are trying to negotiate this. You have the Undersecretary of War calling by name Dario Armodi is a liar who has a God complex. Like, that's not the kind of stuff that normally this does not spill out into the public sphere. And I don't know what it buys. Sure, look, it buys it buys Anthropic the ability to say, well, we have a principled stance when it comes to defense contracting. But to Andrew's point, like, okay, that was always allowed. You also don't have to take their money, and you were taking their money. So it's like, you can, I think it's probably best for everybody involved to walk away if Anthropic is not comfortable doing it, and that means that somebody else would need to take over. But at the same time, like, well, I mean, what does that mean for Anthropic as a company and as a stock? You know, they're about to IPO. The rumors are this year, and that's a pretty big chunk of change. And also, this now has gotten so publicly nasty that you have the Department of War saying, we not only don't trust you, but we don't trust you to be a part of the chain of how things are going to go, because we don't believe that you have the best faith of the United States government at heart. And so we're going to name you a supply chain risk, which not only says that you cannot get money from the government, it says that you can't get money from any company that is working with a project on the government. And the reality of those decisions are, if you are a company that does work for the government, you're probably not going to work with them on other levels, because you don't want to be afraid that you have to build another sandbox to keep one thing away from the other. So it's like there are downstream consequences to this, and for wherever we are in terms of believing somebody is right or wrong on it, this is not a house that they had to walk into. They walked into this house with eyes open.
Yeah, I think it's a very mixed thing, and I think that Anthropic's having a great moment right now. Their consumer usage is way up. Claude work is getting a tremendous amount of attention. They're really making big inroads. I mean, they're also like, my wife's Instagram feed, because she follows AI, is filled with paid influencers from Anthropic, but they've got real love and real momentum there. And I think that right now, I think, yeah, like he's or, to quote Rooney, he's aura farming right now. And Dario is looking at that, because when you look at it from this lens, you go, oh yeah, like standing up, it's great. You got to do this, but it's kind of like, well, yeah, but you're doing these deals before, and this is a situation. It's when you get into the complexity, you're like, okay, well, this looks sloppy. This looks really sloppy.
I'll be really curious whether or not the significant asterisk of, by the way, they bought into this problem, makes it into the general news feed, because it sounds a lot like that politics is supercharging the story, and and most people are encountering it for the first time, only knowing team I either agree with or disagree with is demanding a thing. Company will either
owns Trump. Finally, Donald Trump's final humiliation at the hands of Dario Armodi and Claude.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds, I assume almost entirely that's what's fueling its existence in the news cycle.
I do think that, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. Number one, it is a pretty unique story. It ties together Silicon Valley. It is, a story at the front lines, to use a military metaphor, of AI, the number one thing, not only in Silicon Valley, but also the American economy and government, a rapidly changing and evolving government under Donald Trump's second administration. So it's a human interest story from that perspective. It's a business story because Anthropic is kind of a big question mark. It's a smaller company, but also has an outsized place with enterprise. It is, there's a lot riding on Anthropic this year because they put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of marketing money into the idea that they are going to position themselves as a huge player in Silicon Valley for years to come. And then there is the raw politics of it. Like this is now for many people just yet another example of like crazy things happening in Trumpville. Like I don't ever remember these things happening before. And that is a rich vein because this administration does a lot of things that are different than the way things were done before.
I looked it up. Not once during the Carter administration did any of these problems happen.
Did any of these AI companies balk at the Pentagon?
Right. They were all on board.
But then also there is this Pentagon and the crowd that surrounds Anthropic are both very incentivized about being outspoken in their beliefs, and specifically outspoken in their beliefs against those people, right? Like the Pentagon has been very outspoken about, we are not here to be woke. We are not here to be anything other than the most lethal war fighters that the world has ever seen. And Anthropic and a lot of people that have surrounded that company are very much, hey, we are for humanity. We are for a more restrained idea of artificial intelligence. And if we're just going to label it the way that it should be labeled, there are a lot of lefties, right, that don't like Donald Trump and they don't like this administration, and they probably would like it to be curtailed. So this is a win for either side. The Pentagon gets to say, we're not going to let these woke San Francisco companies tell us what to do. We'll make a deal with another San Francisco company, which I think is ultimately how this is going to wind up working out. And Anthropic gets to say, boy, did we throw sand in those fascist eyes, while also cashing the check up until right now.
Yeah, I get, my personal, frustration over watching this happen is just that how much it's been kind of out there, and people are just kind of paying attention now and just quickly glomming onto one narrative or another. And it's been I get like, how can they be a supply chain risk and vital? Well, steel is a necessary thing to build battleships, but if the guy that owns the steel company is somebody you don't trust, that's how, and not to say you shouldn't trust Dario or anything like that. I'll make it very clear. I know when Dario is absolutely brilliant. Dario is a pioneer. Dario has done, I think Anthropic has done just absolutely some amazing stuff. They focused on a specific area, done really well. I think they're having a great moment right now. And right now, they look like people have been looking for, hey, who's the guy that we should look to kind of make, to be the hero of it all. And that it's Dario's, good for Dario, but I look at this and I'm like, having people and working behind the scenes will say across all of this, I'm also like, I don't think people realize it. And I have to say, they need to deal. Like I said, San Bernardino, like they caught the people, they did it. Then it was a matter of Apple said our core product is we do not hack our phones at all because security is a core thing. We do not do that. Anthropic would say, hey, safety is our core mission. We absolutely want to be core about safety, although they changed that statement, but I think they're trying to be, I think it's absolutely core to them, is they say safety is our mission and we don't want to build robots that kill people. That's a fair thing to say. I would just say that, like, my issue with that was, I don't know how much the Defense Department knew, or the people in the military, or those knew, because they will need robots that kill people. We already have autonomous systems on ships to do ship defense systems. We have the situation now. We're not in a world where people get to stop and decide these things because things move too fast. When you see these things that show you these drone swarms and stuff, like, what do you do? Autonomous systems, and that takes a different mindset to be able to go build that. And I'd say that was the trajectory that Anthropic put themselves on once they started doing these deals.
Yeah, my only problem with the Apple thing, the Apple comparison, is that Apple didn't have a contract with the police departments to hack their own phones and then decide on this we will not stand.
Yeah.
They did not. They like that would have to be. They would have had to have done that, be contracted and paid to do that, and then say we're not going to do it. I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that for this particular situation. Whereas that's closer to where we are now, and then. I don't know. The thing that really just surprises me and I think is kind of unnecessary is just exactly, again, how nasty this has gotten. And you can point to both sides that it's gotten. Nobody's brought anybody to a deep, dark basement to say, let's hash this out right now because we don't want our nation's contractors and government to be publicly at war with each other. But it's even today. Every time that I think, okay, that's the last outburst, somebody is going to be the adult and say, look, if you want out, let's let you get out. If you want in, let's understand what this is. And part of it is, I think both sides are having a hard time reconciling with a deal that would be made that they can sell to their own people. I think
I think this is a very wise vector that you're exploring, because oftentimes just both sides are desperately begging, like, give me a face-saving move. Give me a face-saving move.
Yeah, and like, the Pentagon has been very clear in saying we will not be told what we can and can't do by one private company. We will not do that. That is not in the best interest of the United States of America. It's not in the best interest of your elected officials. It's not in the best interest of the president of the United States. That is not a precedent that we plan on setting. And Anthropic says we are not going to deal with the Pentagon if it does these two things. They need to promise and put in writing that they will not do these two things. And what the Pentagon says is like, okay, well, if we put it in writing that we can't do these two things, that means you can pull the API when you think that we are doing these things, and that's a no-go.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so it's like they can't go back to their own camps and say, here's what we're going to do. And I think the likely off ramp for all of this is you let them unwind the contract, you don't name them a supply chain risk, and you onboard another company to have top secret clearance with whatever that process is going to look like. But we're not there. Instead, they're taking pot shots at each other right up until we are talking.
I think again, like I think both sides of it's the fact that blow up like this is just messy. I would say that often, I always try to think about if I'm the person that has to make the key decisions, then I will look at these things very differently. And I think if I'm the Department of War, and I am trying to plan, my job is literally protecting America in the world. My job is literally not a hypothetical, literally the realistic thing. I have to protect the United States of America from all enemies. And and I think part of it, getting people like, do we have any enemies? I'm like, we do, like very, very much. Like and as much as, I'm a small government isolationist when you can, we're not in that world. Thomas Jefferson learned that lesson very quickly. I think about, like, your fear is if, China encircled Taiwan tomorrow, or we found ourselves in a military conflict, and, Ukraine found themselves in this conflict where they had to advance very, very quickly. Right. And Ukraine war situation is interesting because it's changed a lot in the last 6-7 months. The Ukrainians have gotten very effective at what they call the kill boxes, the kill zones, where basically they use drones to follow any troop, any Russian soldier moving across there, and will follow them, mark their position, keep track of them. Then they'll send in a kill drone to go in and kill them. That's why you've seen the Russians have been trapped and botched into certain places now, because the Ukrainians got very effective at it. Now, somewhere in there is an AI doing image recognition. Somewhere in there is a system that's saying, yes, when you see this face or this thing blow up, and you've watched this evolve very quickly, and that's been a matter of life and death to Ukraine. If you're the Secretary of War and you're saying, if we find ourselves in a conflict tomorrow and we have to move fast with what we're doing, our technology, I need to know that I don't have to call in the CEO of some company to say, can I use it for this lawful thing that's already lawful to use it for? And again, agreements. I get that people say, "Hey, we don't think this technology is ready right now to be used in this way," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I agree," but it's also, if we have to get it there fast, what's happening?
Do we
now
have
is
the
just a
ability
mess.
to? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fact that it became public is just so messy, absolutely messy.
And this is something that leaked out. I don't know. I was trying to do a little reverse engineering based on the reporters. Usually you can find out if there's like two disparate worlds that are conflicting with each other, you can tell which side was leaking it based on which reporter's beat has the top byline on it. Because it usually means, like, in this case, it's like there's a lot of people that cover national security. There's a lot of people that cover tech. In the first story from the Wall Street Journal that broke this, the number one byline was from the tech reporter, which means the story probably originated on the tech side. And then they found that they got their national security people to ask about it to add on to the story. I honestly don't like to see it. And I think that the way that it ends is that you have several companies that get onboarded into top secret security so they don't have to deal with one vendor on it.
Yeah.
Although also, so a few things happened ancillary to this. Number one, you had a memo from Sam Altman and OpenAI saying that they shared Anthropic's red lines, but they believe that they could work with the Pentagon and have technical workarounds. And then another story to the Wall Street Journal that said xAI, which had signed an exploratory contract with the Department of War, nobody likes it in the Pentagon, and they have not used it. And that, to me, is people inside the Pentagon saying, okay, well, if we're looking for a new vendor, not them.
Yeah, well, I remember they did say they did use xAI for adversarial or, like out poorly aligned or whatever kind of stuff, which I thought was telling. So, again, I want to make it very clear. I don't have a sharp take. I have these things I want to know. And so I think there's a lot more nuance to this. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
well, here, guys, I got to go solve. I'm not going to say which two sides I have to mediate a conflict with, but I'm on a flight to Virginia, and I'll see you guys later.
All right. Meanwhile, from the chat, we have the real question. Colidrosto704 asks, where can we see full motion blur, the world's greatest $99 action movie?
I am sure that I only claimed it was the world's $99 action movie. I just got I just had a bunch of stuff from my warehouse in Florida shipped to me, and I'm sure somewhere in there, God knows, I don't have a hard drive can last 25 years.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm discovering that a lot of that storage lasts longer than you think. And I know that on this program we talk an awful lot about AI and its external effects, about how it's changing society, about how companies are using it to create content and scale it, but mainly because it's only of interest to us individually. The amount of internal exploration is extraordinary. As a matter of fact, here we were just now talking about you were talking about drone conflicts in Ukraine and how the robots need to make split-second decisions on what's a target or whatever. I don't know if you remember, but there was a moment that I was deeply flattered by you on the Weird Things podcast, because I had a vision of an opening scene of a science fiction book in which a woman walks down the street and all around her, maybe not a book, but a movie, all around her is full on just drones shooting, blowing each other up. And she doesn't even look up from her phone, doesn't worry about it because oh, it's an annoying day. America's at war with this republic or whatever. And as per the Universal Conventions, no human shall ever be harmed during a war. And so robots are blowing each other up all over the place. And then, you know, it could be a murder mystery where, you know, what looks like an accident, you're like, oh, that drone shouldn't have fallen on that woman. And then, you know, you reveal, are you telling me that a woman was killed on purpose? And anyway, when I pitched this to you, I think it was a decade ago, you said, man, I want to read this book. And boy, do I wish that I had an LLM primed and ready to find every quote of every cool moment. Like, how great would it be if producer bot running into the background was just listening to this conversation and had called up this archive from one of the VODs 10 years ago and had it ready to go. That I think that is an interesting reality to explore with our digital hoarding impulses.
I went through and I have I've never written as much as I should have about prompting, and you and I talked about this, about creating a footprint and whatnot. And I decided to go through all of my notes going back 6 years when I first started OpenAI and first started prompting GPT-3, you know, even before I started working there, and went through all my notes, and I built a tool that let me just record, just to say, oh yeah, I did this and blah, 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 this, and then save the transcript. And then I click a button and I give it a prompt. I'm like, can you just restructure this, fix the grammar, and turn this into an article? And I did that, and I did it without really paying attention in the middle of working on another book. I'd have a few minutes. I would do this, whatever. Before I knew it, I had 65,000 words. And it's now andrewmainprompts.com. And it's just the history of my history of prompting. And and that was using Codex to build the app, you know, and then Codex to organize it and put it all together. And it's just this kind of really, really cool place now where we can just sort of make these things happen.
I'm looking at it right now.
There. Yeah, you'll see the
andrewmainprompts.com, and it's got all of the articles.
Yeah. Let's put TLDRs in there too, so people can just read it. But yeah, I think, Brian, to your point, like, I've been playing with the different video generators, Sora and whatnot, and I think that I went to an event where the founders of Pixar were at, and I had this sort of epiphany. Was when Pixar came out, they did something that was many smart things. One of them was they you know, Toy Story, we're literally at the 30th anniversary of Toy Story. First Toy Story movie was last year, right? And we're in Toy Story 5 now. Okay. Original Toy Story, they were so compute restrained, it wasn't even an HD, right? It was less than HD, and then they had to scale it up for theatrical, whatever. Huge hit, changes animation forever, whatever. Okay. Everybody can use Blender, the 3D studio, for free now. Everybody can go into Unity, use that. Anybody could, you know, 4 or 5 people could get together, do motion capture, face capture, whatever. All of the tools now are there. They're free. They'll run on your home computer to be able to make a historic movie like this. If you had told me in 1995, in 30 years, any 12-year-old will have access to this, I would have thought I would have been seeing truly indie animated films at the Academy Awards all over the place, whatever, but we're not. We're not. And I ask myself, why is this? And I ask you this, Brian, why is this?
I mean, we're getting closer to, I've spoken about it in vague terms with AI, where it's like, where's the human and stuff. Ultimately, I think that the reason I think it's hard to create, quite simply, and it's hard to see things through to completion, and it's hard to be excellent in multiple domains at the same time. You know, we joked about the $99 action movie. I think that experiment was a very good realization that one most intelligent person is going to have a tough time art outing 1,000 pretty good people with specialties.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I've thought a lot about the parallel processing of many humans versus one very intelligent thing. But I suspect you have a different angle that you were headed
Well,
towards.
I mean, my take was I wasn't a great writer or director. To sort of directionally to what you're saying, I would say that I did that, and I did get offers to do direct to video. I had there was a path that was laid out for me. Was I had producers who said, "Hey, you were able the fact that you were able to shoot." I shot this. Long story short, most people have no idea. I made 25 years ago. I made an action movie for $99. I just literally used and that was what I spent on tape. I borrowed everything else. People go, I had the camera. Which camera? Like, yeah, I had my camera, but I'd like tell you can borrow a camera. Like I literally shot all over. Actually, it was like 3,000 cuts, all sorts of stuff. Did it? Got in the film festival. Got offers to go do direct to video stuff. But I would say that film. I would say there've been a number of indie film successes, though. We've had Clerks, we've had El Mariachi. We still, to this day, we still get indie film successes. But when it comes to animated stuff like this, I do think that's the thing. It's like film allows you, and they had the whole Dogma 95 issue. Like, I think there have been some really great indie. We've seen a great number of indie films. I'd say that the talent can go pick up a camera, get some actors, and make something amazing. I would say that the challenge has been, I could think a ton of stuff that was done, with the same resources that I have that was great and made people paying people. And I would say the difference is like the animated stuff is like, I think a lot more decisions have to go into play, but there's just something, that's the thing. I don't have a good answer to why I can point to indie film and show some breakout people who did stuff, made some great films and took off versus indie animated.
I mean, animation is a layer of production where almost by nature, you have to cross the threshold in a massively parallel. It's hard to be an auteur and get anything done in animation completely on your own. At some point, you have to get other people on board to see the vision, and you enter parallel storytelling rules. And maybe that alone is the thing, and maybe that's different now because... Oh, go ahead.
But yeah, no, it's right. Yeah, but I just think of what you said. I think that and I don't mean in India like one guy, but like 5 guys, 5 women, 5 people. Okay. The person put out Flow. Yeah, Flow was animated, was made in Blender, and that's like those are the few examples we have. Like there's a couple examples we can think of, but like it's just been like and that's like it took 30 years to get to there. And I've seen when we see these knockoff people were trying to do their own sort of Pixar sort of style stuff, the first thing you notice is how terrible the writing is. You go, oh, this is really, really terrible. And I think that, we saw the Seed Dance 2, generations, and then I've seen where Sora's going. I know that, VO is going to have another model. And I'm telling you, if you're an artist and you care and you don't just care about the visual, and I've been advising some artists behind the scenes who are using this stuff, and I'm like, check out this guy's trailer. Check out this trailer. It's like, I don't care about a trailer. A trailer is an easy formula to copy. I can take a formula for some other movie and apply it this. Story's hard.
As a matter of fact, like think about who cuts trailers. Avatar can be shot and produced and $1 billion spent on it. The guy cutting the trailer, he has a very reductive job, and that's you probably don't spend an iota of your budget on the trailer cutting.
Yeah, I mean, you again. I mean, there actually there's entire companies that just focus on trailers that do that. Like you literally, the studios will outsource the trailer thing because it's like an art. But I'd say that like the point I'd say those like it's a difference between. I saw the trailer for Running Man. Man, that looked great. Could not wait to go see Running Man. Was so excited to go see Running Man.
It didn't work.
Oh, awful. And I'm like, man, I want to meet the editor of that trailer. That was like it's like Terminator Salvation. Like that, man, this looks cool. And I'm like, I think it was McG. I'm like, it's McG. I don't think it's gonna be. The trailer was amazing. But I guess my point is like, yeah, I think that it should. If you're an artist and you care about these things, I think you should feel excited right now because we've seen the pattern has been clear. And one of the things too that I just want to bring this up, the Pixar did that was so brilliant was when they were planning on doing, they wanted to do storytelling for a decade, but they knew that a feature film was a long way off. Finally, they're like, okay, we can't do people. If you look at the people in Toy Story, they're terrifying, but they're like, we can do toys, and we can make our environments rooms with a toy chest and with this. And the environments were extremely simple. They're big grand shots. It's like, running a truck going down a street, whatever. They chose this very, very carefully. They didn't say, and I've got to have Woody in the rain, doing this, saying this, as this happens, whatever. And I'd say that was the brilliance of them as artists, as they said, what is the medium? I will work with the thing. A lot of artists like to say, no, I need things outside this box, whatever. That's great. Congratulations. You're never going to ship, and I would say that's different from some of the Hollywood directors. Like, oh, I love this guy. Like, yeah, he asked for $20 million. He delivered a miracle, but next time it'll be 50 and it may not work. Where the guys at Toy Story were like, hey, we have these things. Like they started first with doing a thing about a ball, and then they did a lamp. They worked their way up. And I'd say with AI, you're at this great place where you can do certain kinds of things really, really well. And I would love to see people do something with it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% right. The way I think of it, and talk about it on some of the streams is, you've got your, oh no, my pen doesn't work. Never mind. Forget it. I don't have any thoughts. You got your story and you got your domain. And as long as your story is bigger, is just bigger than it feels like could fit into that domain, you got a hit. And whether that, in the case of, Scam School, the domain was, stakes can be no higher than a free drink, and the arena can be no bigger than the table, and the tools can be no more than napkins and glasses and maybe a deck of cards. And so within those constraints, tell a story that somehow feels bigger than those things, and you're net positive.
And I would say that you and I have spent our lives trying to figure out how to be creative. You and I are guys that sit down with a notepad and say, I've got to have 20 ideas, 30 ideas or whatever. We love constraints because a constraint says, great, I don't have to go rove the entire map. I can just figure this out. And I think a lot of people don't like it. And I think that's when I've tried to teach creativity, it's one of the things I go in, I say, like, think of something with this. And I look at one of my heroes too is, Jim Henson.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at his early stuff that he did, he would take a popsicle stick and put googly eyes on it, and he could do an animation with it. You look at his early stuff of what he could do with
and also he started off doing ads, and to me, that's winning art on the hardest mode, because not only do you have all of the actual budgetary constrictions, but then on top of that, you have to wedge something that is objectively not something you care about. Otherwise, you wouldn't be charging money to do it. You have to wedge something that is outside of the story into it. And when you could pull that off and make it something that people say thank you after they watch it, that's the real work.
Yeah. I never been a better time to be a creative, never been a better time to try to do stuff. You could do, if you're just filled with boundless energy, you could do so much more.
Yeah. It's interesting. I brought this up last week. I just can't stop thinking of the parallels of the whole world just got their first magic kit, and the whole world for a brief moment is thinking that it's just a fake thumb, it's just Mark Dex. And then that's where a lot of the whole world is deciding to stop and decide it's just dumb, nobody really has any skill. But in magic, you progress farther to realize that there's real genius and skill in the priming and the getting up to this moment and using of that. You could tell a master using those exact same tools. I remember seeing a floating cane that a kid bought, and I saw the kid try it, and for a brief flash, I saw the disappointment on his face because it wasn't as good as he thought it was going to be. And then I watched Ray Anderson happen to walk by and said, oh, I love the floating cane, picked up the exact same thing, and that thing was a living spirit doing pirouettes over him. It was extraordinary, and then handed it back to the kid. And I feel like more people need to see that moment with the tools that are available now, is so that we can, the other comp I keep mentioning is Vanilla Ice in 1990 versus Smack My Bitch Up by The Prodigy in 1997. Just, we need that marketplace. We need that savvy populace to understand the difference between those two.
Yeah, Magic was a great example of that. I remember working at a magic shop and we had a shelf of books, and we'd get Bill Malone, as one of the greatest close-up magicians ever. He'd walk in, and me and his other kid were two teenagers there, and Bill would pick up a piece of rope and do something blow our minds. Like, where's that? You go, Tarbell's Volume 2. Come in next time, show us. Like, where's this? Volume 5. He would just point, he would blow our minds with stuff and just point. It's in that book, you idiots. It's just sitting right there waiting for you. My favorite David Copperfield story, I have many, but one of them was he's at some backstage with somebody like Jack Goldfinger and Dove and some other people, and somebody had this deck of cards that was just this like really, like they have what's called fanning decks, like this really like rough fanning deck, and they're like, what about, they're laughing like this thing's like old, like just like, like looks like a dog had chewed it up, and it was just, nobody would be able to do anything. But they hand it David, like, what can you do? And David just picks it up and just does a beautiful fan. They're like, oh, there you go. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like there's no substitutes for the reps, and yeah, I for one am just excited for the audience to. We talked earlier in this program about the need for face-saving exits to a conflict, and I feel like a lot of people dug some real deep holes over a lot of silly hills to die on, and I can't wait for everyone to hurry up and find their face-saving retreat from it, so we could get back to enjoying a new type of art that we don't even have words for yet. 5 years from now, there's going to be types of art that need to be invented.
Yeah, I'm excited about what we can do once artists, and I know a lot of art, again, AI changes the way we do things now. I get that. I get that. I don't want to be unsympathetic. And if you got into this world of art because you like to do a thing now, but it's hard to, you can't go back. But my God, when you embrace it, they're just, yeah, it's funny. The comment from Cogliostro, no capes from The Incredibles. That bit of comedy is a concept of Pixar not wanting to animate the capes. Yeah. You look at their evolution. If you look at Pixar, they were like, okay, we'll do Toy Story, do another Toy Story. Then we can do, we'll do things like do a Bugs. We can do Bugs Life. Then we can do a Finding Nemo. They had to work their way up to people, and then when they find that we're doing people, we're all like, wow, people, and I would say that, I think those movies really hold up.
Yeah. Well, and also each of those movies speak to core aspects of humanity. And I think that whoever is wanting to use digital AI-driven tools, pro tip, figure out a very human story to tell. So people are thinking human things.
Yeah. Pixar did a brilliant thing, was they had gifted animators looking in mirrors and trying to figure out what a face should do, just like Disney animators did. They were trying to understand how you translate this. And they bring in like, okay, let's bring in Tim Allen and Tom Hanks, to do voices. I think they figured that part out of it, which was the idea that it's just, you needed a lot more to it. And I think I brought up this argument to this day that like, it'll replace actors. It's like, I don't know. Guess who's starring in the new in the Toy Story 5? Tim Allen and Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
So crazy other AI news is OpenAI just announced that they have raised over like $100 billion.
From whom?
Let me look this up. SoftBank.
Pretend I don't remember who finances what.
SoftBank they've been a big, that's the Japanese fund, Mayosa-san. They're big visionary funds. They've been investing in for a long time, some big plays, some silly plays, some big plays, whatever. So SoftBank was one. NVIDIA, the NVIDIA deal finally came to fruition. And like they had talks about what the different shapes of the deal, but Nvidia's coming in with $30 billion in cash.
Mm-hmm.
And then Amazon's in for like 50 billion or something, 30, like up to 50 billion.
And at this point in the financing cycle, everybody's getting an ownership stake in OpenAI. Is that right? Or
yeah, so yeah, exactly. So it's equity and whatnot, and some of like the Nvidia thing was going back and forth because there was like a lot of like, what will the financing be, the structure of it, whatever. But then I know in the case of like Amazon, it's basically going to be able to get percentage take in OpenAI. So very, very interesting space that we're in. And then the fact they're making this Amazon deal is fascinating, that Amazon putting as much in as they're doing.
So the so what does that mean in terms of outward facing changes on OpenAI? Because I standing way on the outside perceive that there are kind of jaws closing and like, right, so where's the money here? And there's a trade-off between exploratory stuff versus like, for example, the incoming ads going to be coming to ChatGPT or stuff. Like, we've all seen the world change on the internet. How far off do we think changes in the way we see AI to make it profitable happen?
Well, so I'll show you. I don't know if we talked about this. Sarah Fryer, who I had the pleasure to sit down with and talk with her on the OpenAI podcast. She shared this graph. It's you can look this up, a business that scales with the value of intelligence. It came out last month, and I'll pull this up for you. It talks about her job. She's the chief financial officer at OpenAI. Her job is, how do we make money, right? Now, on the right is this graph that shows you the revenue of OpenAI over the last 3 years. 2023, $2 billion a year. 2024, $6 billion a year. 2025, ending by the end of the year, they were making $20 billion annual reoccurring revenue, right? Now, so that went tripled from 2 to 6, then over tripled to 20 billion last year. Okay. Next to this is a graph that says compute, and that shows you what they're spending on compute. And what happens each time they increase the amount of compute they have, they show this correlation between compute and revenue. So, they're at a point where they know they need to build out X amount of compute. And the example I give is like, if Amazon started selling, if all Amazon ever did was sell books, then having a distribution center in Washington next to the world's largest book wholesaler made sense. But if Amazon wanted to do everything, then Amazon needed to build fulfillment centers in a lot of places. And to build fulfillment centers in a lot of places means you're doing a lot of CapEx spending, capital expenditure, which means you're spending a lot of money because you think the demand will be there. Amazon's like, we think if we build a new fulfillment center in the middle of Iowa, we'll probably be using it a lot to ship things to people. And that's been the pattern that, has been followed both for data centers, for basically handling web, internet, et cetera. Now it's been doing that for compute. And OpenAI said, hey, we think that if we keep building more compute, we're going to keep selling it. And that so far has been the trend. And same for Anthropic, same with other companies too that are in the space.
So I wonder, this is fascinating because like when, how much of the compute expense is just the energy to do it? Does that become a play of like, quite literally, whoever gets the cheapest energy can suddenly carve out their margin that way, rather than?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different things at play here and how they're trying to do it. I think that,
like for example, what I think of is Southwest Airlines. Airlines was a mature market, and a big part of Southwest's dominance was that they locked in their fuel pricing. They bought futures options, and so for like half a decade, they were able to eke out margins where other people couldn't, and become the dominant airline. It's interesting. Right now, we're at the place where it's like build more facilities, build more data centers, compute. You think of the chips, but I wonder that we don't know yet what the upper bound is in humans' appetite for compute. I suspect we've got a long way to go because we're very good at manufacturing demand.
Yeah, there's so two things. Like, yeah, one is first next week we're going to find out more about the energy initiatives, how now they're going to start building power, generators and stuff that go along with the compute. When it comes to the upper limit for human demand for compute, I don't think it ever levels off, but you have to ask questions of like, imagine everything in the world that we want to make better today, from, fixing, getting rid of the dead plants out there in my landscaping, to making sure that my telomeres are replicating or not going to cause me to prematurely age. Think of every problem in the world that we would like solved. And I think the problem is we have trouble that we'll go like, well, AI is, we go replacing things. It's not just replacing, it's advancing things. And we go, oh, what is the most efficient? Like right now, if I have a kilogram of weight and I have this much space, what is the maximum battery that I could put in there, right? You could start asking everything from battery thing. What's the most efficient solar cell? What's the most efficient way to teach a 5-year-old Spanish, whatever. Every question we could possibly answer, we're going to have decades of figuring out answers to those things.
Well, and including here's a strange one that maybe hasn't occurred to everyone, including, let's take a measure of your belief that the planet will be okay. That is a very valuable thing. And whether you're worried about, it used to be acid rain was on all our minds, and then the skies got clearer, and then we started focusing on climate change, and then but eventually it could be toxins in the environment, diversification of species, old growth forests, number of uninhabited miles, like whatever your metric is, if humans care about it, we can arrange electrons in such a way to put it to the task of working on it.
And so that's the thing where you have to think about, like, how long does it take before we have enough compute to kind of reasonably do just about anything we want that's physically possible within our environment, right? And I think we're decades away from that. But then the question opens up when we will discover new physics. We will discover new realms of things, and often new engineering. We'll realize, like, right now we're doing 3 nanometer microprocessors, which was something that 2 decades ago was, you'll never be able to do that. Well, now we do it. Now we run them, right? And we know, Moore's law, there's an upper limit to that, but there's other physics, other things like this. We don't know the nature of reality. When we start getting compute systems that are running the equivalent of particle accelerator and doing advanced, that's one of the things that OpenAI and other labs, DeepMind, are so excited about. It's just the scientific discovery. And you asked me, what's the upper bound for that?
Was the Feynman lecture called "There's Plenty of Room at the Bottom"? Is that what?
Plenty of room at the bottom.
Yeah, and that he's talking about a physical representation in an electron microscope of a print edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica. This is without encoding. This is like however many pixels of atoms you need to recognizably make a Times New Roman font. There's a lot of arranging we could do before we bump up against the subatomic wobbliness of the universe.
So I did a talk at Berkeley last week for a bunch of college students, and I brought up the plenty of room at the bottom example. And I said that there was an excitement once microprocessor design and that, we started doing things on a much smaller scale in the 90s, started to become more popular. There was the excitement that we might all of a sudden work our way into nanotech. And nanotechnology is when you're literally designing machines at the molecular level. And I remember I was like 1992, 93, and I pick up a book in Puerto Rico in a bookshop that's called Engines of Creation by K. Eric Drexler, which talked about this. And nanotech, understand, I'm 19 and I'm reading a book on nanotechnology, 1992, somewhere on there. No, if I'm 19, yeah, it would have been like 92. And I'm now a magician working on cruise ships. And I'm reading this book and I go, I've wasted my life.
Ha! It's too late. You missed it.
I felt like nanotech was going to happen any day. I thought literally, I'm like, any day now, this is going to happen. And then doesn't happen, doesn't happen. Internet happens. And I remember 1995 talking to a friend of mine who worked on mainframes. And we talked about creating an internet company. And yours truly said, I think the big internet companies have now been created. 1995.
I was about to say, I could think of one fairly significant internet company that had yet to be born.
Yeah, or all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So I listen, man. By the time OpenAI came around, I'm like, I'm not missing this Hawaiian Tropic bus, you know. But anyhow, my point is to say is that like nanotech is one of these things that now I go like, oh, there are a lot of one of the things that's happened is that last few months code has blown up. Code is absolutely blown up. It's gotten way better. I use Codex all the time. I can run my iOS simulator. It will grab screenshots, look at it, make changes. It's insane how fast code has evolved. And it's one of these things where people are like, I know it was an incremental, but coders are like, no, it's just blown up. And that's what happens is the technology is good, yeah, it's good, yeah, it's good. Then all of a sudden it's insane. And then a couple of years later, we forget, like, you know, is an iPhone good? Well, of course, right?
Yeah.
We're at this point where that's happening. I'm saying there's a lot of problems we addressed before that we go, we can't, like nanotech, it's down at this part, the vibrations are too much. We can't figure this out. I'm like, what if I have AI go at it and look for solutions? What if, because we know biology works. What if we do that? And we're at this point where.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm beginning to think that something's up in the world.
Yeah. I think it's a great opportunity. I think my advice to people, and this is, I give this to students, I give this to companies. My hero is Benjamin Franklin. Philadelphia, 18th century. If you're young and you're broke, it kind of sucks. You're watching people from wealthy families, you know, the Penn family, all of them, you know, they're the ones that buy everything, own everything, whatever. You're Ben Franklin. You're like one of like 10 kids. Your best economic option is literally to go to your brother and say, I will be your slave.
Yeah,
you know?
literally.
Yeah, literally, indentured servant. And then he's like, you know, what do people not value? You know, Peter Thiel talks about like, what do you know that nobody else knows? Frankly, people don't value information. People don't value information. Benjamin Franklin's like, I need to get as much information as I can, and people freely give it to you. He creates the Gen 2, creates a society, this group, his friends, they just get together like once a week, and they're like, Brian, what scientific journals have you read? What have you learned? You know, Justin, what's going on in the world of business in Philadelphia? Have we heard anybody that's had any successes or any failures? Yes. What have we learned from that? And they would just start dissecting everything going on around them. And then Ben Franklin realized, oh, you know, if I start a newspaper, you know, and I do these other things, he valued libraries as a place to have information. And he also created the post office because he valued the distribution of information. And then he created his own newspaper because he valued the idea of commoditizing information, and became one of the wealthiest Americans and a great hero, you know? And I think about that today. Like, what would Ben Franklin be doing today? He'd be getting together 4 or 5 friends a week saying, what are you doing in AI? What have you heard? What have you learned? What do you know what's going on?
Yeah. Picks. We got any picks?
I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but I went back to go through all the King Kong movies.
Oh yeah, we talked about this last week. You were saying that you watched the what's his name, guy, Dino De Laurentiis one.
Watched that. That worked my way through there, and then this week I finished rewatching Skull Island. Great movie.
You didn't love it?
Love it. No, I love Skull Island.
Oh, wait. Oh, no. Skull Island was the one where they fought. Yeah, the action movie, right?
Apocalypse Kong.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, that one was good. That one was surprisingly good. I know because I watched it on a streaming service and I stuck around to the end, to my surprise.
Yeah, they show up on Skull Island and everything goes south, and it's just filled with a bunch of action beats and fun stuff, and Samuel Jackson trying to take down King Kong. Like done.
Yeah.
Done. It is probably I told you I tried to watch the Peter Jackson one, and I did, and it's just
Yeah, that was the one I thought you were talking about. I
No,
thought
no,
the
the
first
Skull
act
Island.
of the Peter Jackson one was quite good.
Yeah.
But then again, I saw it in the theater and not since.
Maybe I'm trying to gear it up because I'm getting ready. Monarch season 2 is coming out, and we live in a world where Apple, one of the richest companies on the planet, it's like we need to do TV. What can we do for TV? And like we want big ideas. Like how about like a Godzilla King Kong TV, the thing that would have gotten you laughed out of a studio, a couple years ago. Apple's like, King Kong, Godzilla, we'll make a licensing deal for that. Like, what's going to cost? Like, it's got hundreds of millions of dollars to do this show. Apple's like, cool. Did you see what we spent on C that nobody watched? That was the irony. They called it C, but nobody went and saw it.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I wish I had. I think last week I gave the exact same thing. I'm barely having time to watch anything. So still slow walking through 11/22/63, the Hulu original from 10 years ago.
That was fun. That
Yeah.
was really, really fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Then the well, on the book side, I'm really enjoying The Illusion of Choice. I think I mentioned that last time.
No, I don't remember that.
Oh, The Illusion of Choice is, I think it was decoded. I think last time I mentioned one, the foreword was written by Rory Sutherland, and that was decoded.
Yeah.
And then the one I read after is The Illusion of Choice, which I'm wrapping up now. And then I'm going to read the previous book, The Choice Factory, after that.
Okay.
But
cool.
basically, it's about that human cognition stuff, the nudges. Here's one. It was a surprising move. Like you can A/B test your products. Like, do you say 50% more, or do you say oh man, I forget the exact answer. Anyway, this is why I read books twice, so I can cite them exactly specifically. But The Illusion of Choice is good.
Well, a great one was A Quarter Pounder.
Tell me about that.
Well, we feel a quarter pounder sounds like more than a third pounder.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because we're not really wired for fractions. And people are like, it's so stupid. People think a quarter pounder sounds like it's more when it's less. I'm like, well, yeah, but we're not. 4 is a bigger number than 3.
And also
listen,
more syllables, and it's a meatier phrase. And weirdly, I think it matters how things roll off the tongue. Like,
sure, but even if you look at it, even if you look at that, you go, it just sounds like, you just look third pounder versus quarter for some reason. That just our brain, like there's little things like that are just we go like, oh, I know that's not true, but
well, and then meanwhile, I think you're right. I think that third pounder. In fact, I know that Hardee's tried a version of that didn't stick last time. But it's funny because a quarter pounder does sound like a lot, but a half pounder, like we all know that a 1 pound burger is insane. Halfway to insane, that's a lot of meat. Whereas a quarter pounder, like it's a miracle that the word pound is even in that phrase. So that seems like a lot of meat.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyhow, curious to hear more about this Illusion of Choice.
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure to report on it. G. James B in the chat says that Trump just announced they're dropping Anthropic. I'm sure this is old news to people hearing it in the feed, but this is very good news because now it means Brian and Andrew will make sure this gets published sooner because it's so timely.
Yeah. What a world. It's just weird when you're like, oh,
when you're so close to all of this.
Yeah,
the view looks different when you've had to put it inside and are around the real humans.
There's that the from The Jerk when Navin R. Osborne, Steve Martin's character, he gets his job at the gas station. He finally has an address and he sees his name in the phone book. He's like, "I'm in the phone book. I'm in the phone book." And meanwhile, cut to this mass killer, serial killer guy with the shotgun or the hot hunting rifle randomly selects a name in the phone book. Navin R. Osborne. You're mine.
I need to go back and rewatch The Jerk. I think that'll be my pick. Actually, amend. We'll see if the robots catch it. Amend my pick. I picked The Jerk.
Yeah. There you go, everybody. It's been weird.
Pew! We did it. We're doing after things, right?
Yeah, sure. Can I take a quick?
Yeah. Here, I'll just throw a little. Here's a puzzle for you to look at while we do a bathroom break. Here we go. All right, there we go. And boom. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Oh, let me check this thing. Okay. And we are ready. You good?
Ready.
3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the After Things podcast. I'm Andrew Mean, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Howdy, howdy.
Brian, I have a question for you.
Yes.
From an anonymous person wrote this in. It said, "Dear Brian and Andrew and Justin, if you make it to the show, I love being a creative. I find myself involved in many different creative endeavors, and I love all of these new tools. And I find myself, though, sometimes in the middle of working on one project when I'm waiting for something to finish, starting a new project, and then a new project. And the next thing you know, I've got 12 different things that I started doing in the middle of trying to do the one thing. How do you manage this creative drift? Please don't use my name. Signed, Andrew Main."
I'll tell you what, man. I don't love compromising on artistic vision. I don't love submitting what I know in my heart to be B- product. But the nice thing about doing that is that a deadline causes something instead of nothing to happen. And I try to be judicious about even reining in discussions, because sometimes, like Weird Things podcast, we've gotten pretty good at keeping the narrative thread and just wrangling that beast back on track. And then we always know that there are certain touchstones that we need to hit, and then we finish the discussion and we close the loop. It takes practice. It takes practice and some kind of enforcement on there. But I'll tell you the thing I'm doing. Two things. Number one, partly to get my chops up, I go live every single day. At first, it was just for office hours. I made no promises outside. And I didn't even promise to go live every day. I just started doing it, and I wanted to see who would notice. And at first, it was quite simply just the reason I called it office hours was because just you ever go to university, professor just shows up, does what he was going to do. You're welcome to ask questions. And then at some point, we hit a rich vein because I went back and I played the very first episode of Scam School. And there was a lot to talk about, that behind the scenes stuff that in the beginning, there was the content episode 1 of Scam School. Later, there was Scam School Remix, which was a reduction of the core product. And then now I realized, oh, wait, there's never been an extensive director's commentary on these things. There's never been an expansion of it. But it took, I kid you not, 99 episodes of office hours before stumbling across that fairly obvious thing. And now 28 episodes later, today I went live, and simply by iterating and having it be non-negotiable, and because I know that there are dozens of people who would be slightly disappointed if I didn't show up. And actually, I understate it. To be honest, I was actually deeply moved. A week and a half ago, I went out of town, and I got like 3 or 4 emails of people saying, "Is everything okay? I was surprised that you didn't show up live." Anyway, my point being, having that accountability where done is better than perfect, and then as I built up a rhythm, I'm now at a point where I wake up and the first thing I do is I see what's the next episode. And I know I only get an hour and a half for my entire development schedule. And it has to happen while I'm jogging, while I'm eating grilled chicken nuggets at 6:30 in the morning. And then by the time it's 7:30, I only get 20 minutes to come up with a title and thumbnail. And today, let me show you the one I had to push. I was frustrated and upset because this right here, you can see, here we go. It says here, mind control scam. And on that, there's this little yellow dot there that I couldn't get rid of. I couldn't get rid of that thing and I hit a gate. I'm like, man, you spent your 2 minutes. That's it. You got to be done. And so I pushed with that thumbnail so that I could go live. And then what ended up happening was an amazing revisit of this mind control trick that has wormed its way into the internet's consciousness, to where now, yeah, you know this trick, Andrew, where it's like there's a magical expert, and here, name a card.
5 of diamonds.
5 of diamonds. So that would be Edgar Singleton, Dr. Edgar Singleton. And so then now, like, go to any browser. So DuckDuckGo, for example, Dr. Edgar Singleton interview. Like, those 4 magic words are now fully wormed into the cosmic consciousness, to where now I'll be able to find a video of CJ saying that no matter what, the card you were thinking of was the 5 of diamonds. And you know, this is the one that Richard Garriott did in space or whatever. It ended up being a fantastic 45-minute block of content that I'm very proud of, that happened because of all the limitations. I launched with a okay title, YouTube's 18-year hidden magic trick still works, and over time a style identity has emerged, not because I put a lot of thought into it and because it's right, but because this is a flavor that didn't look super duper GPT-ish, but could work with Chat GPT. And I, you know, by God, I can make a consistent thumbnail that telegraphs what we're doing. And then finally, like, when I went to the bathroom, I now realized, like, I had enough couple of minutes. I knew I needed a thing that was a puzzle right at the beginning. So every day now I take this dad joke calendar that my daughter got me, and I take the first half of it and write it on that pad, and then I use ChatGPT to encode. Right now it's ROT 13, but I'll mix it up to make it hard on everyone. So the punchline requires effort, and then because the time slices I have are all I have, what I do is I begin a stream, and we go from that and pull out, or some kind of motion that moves over on me long enough so that there's a sense of movement, of purpose, of direction, of a deeper mystery. And then finally it crossfades back to me giving an introduction, a time and place, and then proceeding with the content. And so far, it has yet to be anywhere close to good in my eyes, to something that I think is perfect in every way. But every time it gets closer to revealing the shape of itself, to where today it was great, because like at the 30-minute mark, I kind of was out of to-dos. I had said everything that I needed to, and then somebody in the chat said, comment bomb. And I was like, that's right, because they love the idea that a small 2 to 3 minute chunk of it could be me hilariously replying to 16-year-old comments, because we think it's funny that somewhere out there somebody left a breadcrumb, and they're going to get an email saying Scam School replied to your comment. And they're going to be like, what? And they're going to come back and say, this is a 13-year-old comment. And that will open the door for them to maybe show up and be part of the live stream. But however good we are now, at 28 episodes in and 128 days into this, I can't help but think that the progress won't be linear. It's going to be geometric. What's it going to look at 228 days, or by the fall when we're, you know, in the late 200s? Anyway, point is, that little unambiguous deadline, that binary, you did it or you didn't, seems to have a virtuous cycle of knock-on effects. The only downside to it is that I have to be bad in public. And I don't love that part, but ain't nobody said, Art, it's super easy.
Yeah. So how do I avoid being distracted?
uh, uh, I know that I respond to external restrictions. So one is a promise that I like keeping to the fans, the Diamond Club, and two, you could purchase this at retail. I've started using a business coach, and my favorite part of the week is Saturday mornings because right around this time, I start thinking about, okay, I know all the threads that she's watching, and I know all the reasons I gave for what I'm doing. And now tomorrow morning, am I going to tell stories of reasons things didn't get done, or amazing tales of how I closed all the loops, or how I'm pleased with the progress because I've gotten more data? Because there are no wrong answers, but except for to not show up.
Yeah, I do think that for a lot of people, accountability is a great way to sort of make yourself get things done. It's like if I show up and I have to go do it. I've avoided accountability my whole life, so I'm not gonna, start that trend.
I mean,
right
you
now.
say that, but you do the same ADD thing I do, which is have strategy brain make a promise that eventually first person shooter brain will have to encounter boots on the ground. Like at some point, you find yourself on that stage needing to give that talk because past you said, yeah, I know future Andrew's good for it.
Yeah, I'm a lazy man, and I have spent many a time, and my wife has finally realized that. She's like, "Oh, you're so hardworking." I was like, "Oh yeah, you're just like really clever at figuring out ways of being lazy." Like, yes.
That is a known aspect of how some humans like to work, or maybe we don't even like it, but we tend to work.
Yeah, I think that, as a writer, one thing over time that you can hope for, particularly if you pay attention and to really make notes of, is you start to get a sense of how long it takes you to do a thing. I got into a great groove with my magic effects where I could play with something off and on for a while, and then I could be like, oh, I think this is good. This is good. And then I would go to a restaurant or something and test it out on a Friday night, go try it different ways, and they, okay, works in front of people. That's good. Saturday morning, go set up my video camera, write out, take out a yellow pad, write out what the beats were going to be, how I was going to like explain the trick, what I was going to do, go do the trick, then record the explanation phase, like how the different angles. I just had this thing of shooting it, and then be done by the evening, and then get all the video, upload all the video. I tell myself I don't have to edit till tomorrow, but I'd go edit, put it all into, into Adobe Premiere or whatever, or Final Cut. And then I'd be sitting there going, well, why don't I go like just organize it? So I just go organize the order of the clips that night. And then the next day I would sit down to edit. And one of my tasks that I tell people, actually, the way to deal with the distraction is when I would be in the middle of editing, I'd get bored, my brain would hurt, I need to think about something. I would open up Photoshop and I would start working on the cover art for the DVD. And when I got bored with that, I didn't want to edit, I would go work on the website copy, and I would open up a document, and I would go back and forth between the three of these tasks. And so by the end of the day, like, I know people like, I write 2 books at once, at 3. I'm like, great. Bless your heart. That sounds like a cope, but I'm like, if you're saying, okay, I am going to work on this other part that'll have to get done, it's the same project, it's the same part of that series operation. If you're like, for this thing to survive, I have to get this thing will have to be on here. If you can bring that into the present, and instead of doing something else, I'm like a big fan of that. So that was what worked with me DVDs, is that I could, by then I would be Sunday night, I'd have it finished. I'd have my artwork, have my copy, everything. Monday morning, Justin and I'd roll over to the DVD replicator, hand them the DVDs. We'd call up our distributor, make a deal. And then I'd announce on my website and start selling and it was just, that was the pattern. Now with books, I got into a really good groove where I knew how long it took me to release a book. I knew how long I needed to write it. Then I got a social life.
Yeah.
Then I got married, then I got that. And I have a better idea now, the time frame. I know the time frame now, but it took me a while to adjust to that. And a lot of people are like, oh, I can't get done. Like, no, it's just, I can't lock myself down for 10 days to do a thing because I have things I have to answer to. It does mean I maybe have to start 30 days out to do a book, or 40 days out. And so I think a lot of it's just being realistic and understanding how much things have changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what's got you vexed right now? Are you over indexed on one thing or another?
It's the age of magical tools. It is literally
Oh,
this world we live in where,
it's a candy store.
yeah, like I mean, Codex is just, it's amazing. It's amazing. I don't know what to tell you. It's just the idea to be able to iterate and come up with stuff and watch this stuff happen. It's just kind of insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah. So, it's coming to Windows.
Yes, great. Cool.
They're beta testing it right now.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I just think that like what's interesting about like Codex and Claude Work and all these other tools is that now you're in the space where if you can define the task that you want to do, I had to open up Blender the other day and just generate an entire. I'll show. I made a thing in Blender where I just had it generate a. I was just talking to a buddy about like how these tools have gotten better, and let me share with this. Let me see if I can put this in a window here. Oops. 1 second here. Everybody look away. Nobody. I've got to get the magic trick ready.
Ha.
We
Turn
had a
around.
funny story about
Turn
a
around.
famous magician that all right, let me. I was opening up. I opened up Codex, and I was like, "Hey, I wonder if I just told it, can you open up Blender, download Blender, run Blender, find an asset that's a rigged asset, something that can make it move, and then do like a camera movement around it." And then I just made one change that just told it one thing different, the camera move. And then I said, "Okay, use the image generator to generate some background images or whatever." That's all I told it. Like literally every instruction I give it could fit on a Post-it note. And it found this character, this 3D robot, and then it did this whole.
Wow, it did a walking animation of it.
Yeah.
And this is all agentic behavior.
Yeah, I told it all. It ran Blender. It basically, I told it to just basically, it went in and it found online. It found the asset online. It generated the images itself. I didn't prompt it. I just said, just create some images to whatever. Again, it looks like garbage, but like I gave it no artistic direction other than find an object, create some images, create some textures.
Yeah, and I think that, yeah, I'll tell you the best comp I could think of is just imagine an intern that's C+ at everything. You're like, well, that's no good.
They're B+ now, Brian.
But sure. But my point is for anybody feeling threatened,
be threatened. No, be threatened. Be threatened.
Okay, but my point being, it would be weird if the intern, who you're told is quite smart, was able to execute, get me a pull quote from this senator and write this headline and get it to. It would be weird if it could do it all on day one.
Here's the way I describe it. You think about the first AI. If you're in a black box, if you just wait for something to come through email and you do a task, or somebody sends you text messages and you do the task, like, and you upload the image or do this, whatever, that's not good now because the AI is good. And now we're getting black box companies. Companies are kind of like, oh, I can just switch to this company and it doesn't matter. That's not there. People who are interacting with other people in our network are really good. But I'm telling you, like I've had it create video trailers for me and stuff now. Like literally go assemble the clips, go do this, like I've had it do some really creative work. And honestly, like I was sitting there like, oh, the audio sucks on this. Oh, just find an audio cleaner. I don't even know where to go. Clean up the audio. Came back, cleaned up the audio.
Yeah.
How did you do that? Like, oh, I found the server that did this. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, and my point being though, we've talked about internal facing versus external facing. The point I was trying to make was, it would be weird for a intern who doesn't know your motivation, your direction, your style, your flavor, your preferences to get it all right out of the gate, you
Yep.
know? So when you think of it in terms of a walking your way towards a thing, like for example, you could start with that and now you know that your animation, you know, it could do all these things. Now you have something to work with. It's like, can you have him walk sad, that robot? And then
Yeah.
now you get something like that. Can you have him encounter a thing? And keeping it in the primitive space. And then it's like, okay, let's talk about this model of you know, can we enhance it? And then you could eventually ask enough questions and poke and prod to where now you're starting to reveal, as you know, as I put it, you're finding the human in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the role for, I look at it where there's so many more things I can do now as a creative, and I don't have to do all the BS stuff.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
I wanted to, let's say, oh, I wanted to make that turn that into real animation. Like, yeah, then I could say, oh, I can spend my time on the performance. I'm not spending my time rigging things and doing this. I can spend my time saying, oh, give me a better smile, give me a better sad at that. And that's what it's like being a director. You know, a director's a person that has a bunch of tools and people around them to help them do things.
Yeah. So the real quick, I want to give a shouts out to when I was showing this puzzle right here. Shouts out to Cogliostro. There we go. I can say it. Cogliostro, who said, my daughter wants a rescue porcupine that lost all its quills. And then the encoded part he got right. I think it's pointless.
Yeah, I was looking at that going, I thought I had the V and the G and the A, and then you pulled away from it. And I'm like, I got to talk to Brian and not try to solve this.
Yeah, but isn't it funny how those little multimodality, like in general, I love my content to be saying one thing with its words, a adjacent thing with its visual language, and then some kind of implied story to crack at all times.
Yeah. It's fun. Picks?
Oh man. What's the thing? Oh, you know what? But while you still can, look, I'm sure the movie will be great. But books and movies are never the same. This is your one chance right now to go out and do specifically the audiobook of Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Go do it before the movie comes out. The audiobook is special for reasons. I'm not going to tell you why. This is what your one friend alert.
Celebrity voice.
Nope.
Cool. The movie trailer looks great.
Have you read that one?
No.
Yeah. Okay. If you're a listener and you don't want to be spoiled, skip this because I will spoil a bit. There's a in the book. There's a communication modality that they represent with musical notes. But if you do the audiobook, suddenly really interesting audio production happens to represent that same thing. And it's really neat.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Cool. It's been after. I got to hop on a video call.
All right. You got it, man. I'll see you.
Later, bro.
All right. Bye, guys, in the chat. I'll see you. Everybody who's still here. New episode premiering in 1 hour. We continue the World's Worst Inheritance series as Ryer is going to learn another of my tricks from the magic show. This one's a lot of fun. It's really good. Be back here in 55 minutes for the premiere. I'll see you guys later on.